quite a different experience of this city. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Against? Carry. Thank you. Now, we face a bit of a dilemma here, folks. The Auckland Transport people have been sitting around very patiently all morning. I would like to get them through before lunch, if that's possible, but that would involve a bit of cooperation from from us. It is a quarterly report. Go for it. Okay, so I'm reading the room that won't keep Dean and the team waiting any longer. If you could come up, please. Claire, if you could introduce the item, and we can get on with it and try and get this finished in a timely manner. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. So this report sets out Auckland Transport's performance for Q3 through to March this year. As with other quarterly reporting, performance reporting, Dean is here today to answer any questions and highlight some of the ongoing risk and strategic issues for your consideration. I'd also like to acknowledge Richard Leggett, the Chair of Auckland Transport, who is also in the room. I'm happy to take the report as read, but I would note that the Q3 report demonstrates good performance against the KPIs that have been set in the SOI, with all but one KPI being met, and it also highlights good progress against the majority of their work program. A number of issues are highlighted in the report. These relate to budget constraints, government policy decisions. They're not new, they have been reported consistently, and they are being worked through as part of the long-term plan and regional land transport plan, which is on this agenda today to discuss as well. Capital expenditure is tracking well at 92%, but Auckland Transport do note that a number of their projects and programs have been paused, and it would be helpful to get a better understanding of how ATC the last quarter playing out in that regard. In paragraph 23 of my report, we note that one of the deliverables relating to developing a set of exemplar journeys, and in particular the development of the public transport journeys, is still being investigated, and we're just noting that it would be good to get an update on that, given that we are nearing the year end. I do note, and it is in the report, that progress on embedding the carbon emissions reduction is noted as at risk, and that's item 2.10 in their report. So with that, I'm happy to hand over to Dean, and welcome Dean to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that, Claire. Well, Dean's making his way up to the front desk. We have just a couple of questions here from the Mayor, the Deputy, and Councillor Hills. I think, Dean, you were looking just to take questions, or do you have a presentation for us?
I don't have a presentation, except I'd like to make a few comments. Is that okay?
Yep, by all means.
Look, personal opinion, but I think you've got a very good status report. When I look across it, we've got 19 objectives. We're exceeding on 6. We're met on 12. And there's one that we're not achieving. And that's because we changed how we were going to measure it. And I've got Stacey ready to talk to that. Because we felt that the new measure was a better measure of actual performance. This is a damn good report. So that is the key point I want to make sure that we all hear. And of course, there's always challenges across everything. I get that. But you've got within Auckland Transport, and I don't think you've all believed this in the past, but I want you to believe it now, you've actually got an organisation that's moving towards high performance on behalf of Aucklanders. That is my opening comment. On that note, I'm happy to take questions.
All right, I think you probably will get a few questions on that too, I think, Dean. Mr. Mayor, you're going to lead it off?
Okay. Fair enough. I think definitely there's a good effort there, but it doesn't mean to say that I still can't raise a few issues. Okay, I note that we haven't met the public transport reliability target, which is disappointing, and that proves to me that you're not moving fast enough on bus lanes and bus transponders. This should be the priority rather than slowing down bus routes, which is a way of solving the reliability, but I don't think that's what we had in mind, so that's the first one. I'm basically disappointed with the progress on dynamic lanes. We haven't had a new dynamic lane in over 4 years, and yet your update shows you're only progressing only 2 of them. I want a much more ambitious plan for dynamic lanes, as well as a broader plan for addressing congestion hotspots, so focusing on simple fixes using paint by adding more clearways. So there's some simple things there. And also note that only 3 in 10 Aucklanders, from your figures, agree that AT listens and responds to Auckland. This is disappointing, but not surprising. And I know you're trying very hard to do that, but it's still, that's a way to go. Mind you, there's probably only 3 in 10 agree that Auckland Council is listening to them either, but it doesn't mean to say that, fortunately, we don't measure that. So there's 3 little things there for you. So transport reliability, bus plan, and dynamic lanes. I'm really wanting to have something more aggressive on that, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll pick off 2, and I appreciate Stacey's here and she can talk to the measure that we're not achieving, and I'd like to make sure we're all very clear on why and that the measure has changed. First of all, transponders. At the last Transport Infrastructure Committee meeting last month, we gave a full presentation on what we're doing to optimise bus lanes. That shows significant progress, and we have put timeframes and we've put corridors in that. So I'm happy to recirculate that so everybody's very clear on what we intend to do. In terms of public trust and confidence, yes, I don't like 3 in 10 either, but we're working at that, and that takes time.
I agree.
But I do want to note the customer satisfaction and experience continues to trend usefully upwards. When we ask the people of Auckland, do they have confidence in the transport system, which is what you're referring to, we are not the only contributor to the public transport or the transport system. NZTA has a role, Kiwi Rail has a role, actually political leadership around this table has a role. And all of those have a bearing on the public's perception of transport in Auckland. Our job at Auckland Transport is to try and bring that all together and do the best that we can, but we are not the only party contributing to that perception. On that note, I'd like to hand over to Stacey, who will talk you through the reliability statistics, and whilst it's down, I think it's very important you understand why and what we're doing about it. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you. So for context, up until last year, what we used to report upon during the SOI was actually what we call punctuality at first stop. So it measures your level of punctuality on the get-go in terms of that. We still measure that, but what we're actually reporting on is punctuality at the last stop, which gives a much fairer indication of the customer journey. So it is lower. It usually travels, and I've looked at some of the historic reporting on this too, about 10 percentage points lower or thereabout, particularly during March. So obviously March, when you have more traffic on the road and the absence of good bus priority measures, you do get that compounding effect that does impact your punctuality. And so in terms of that, if I look at punctuality at first stop, it was circa 97-98% from memory. So there's quite a big difference, but it's a more what I call honest representation that the customer sees doing it that way and displaying it that way. It does suggest when you actually break it down to punctuality at all stops that timing points obviously come into it, but there is obviously seasonal fluctuations that we see with those measures.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for that explanation, because obviously when it comes in, you don't understand. It's not actually in the report. I would just say, and I'm not a transport expert, but punctuality at the first stop I get, punctuality at the end stop I get, but you also have to divide that by number of passengers. So if no one's getting on at every stop, you'll get there faster. If people are getting on at every stop, there is a potential for it to slow down. So I'd add that to your mix. Not that I'm telling you grandmother how to suck eggs. My actual question that I was ready to ask you is, could you please explain or give us some context around the measures that you're putting in place to protect and make our transport hubs and public transport safe? We had an absolutely and horrific incident of an 80-year-old woman that was attacked by youths at a public transport hub. I'm interested in what your view and measures are around public safety on our public transport network, and at our transport hubs, you know, where they wait and get on, especially at the big hubs.
Thank you. Look, this is a really good topic to have a discussion on. And so what we have seen recently is a disturbing trend. We saw that a couple of years ago when it started to spike up in 22, and obviously last year a similar sort of seasonal pattern, strangely enough. But obviously school holidays is always going to be a hot spot in our network, and what we have seen is obviously an increase in terms of that youth activity around particular areas. So, I mean, we've got a number of measures, and, you know, the first one is obviously trying to get good information so that we can be more proactive in terms of targeting our resources there. That's why we introduced Crime Stoppers, so using that information to support deployment decisions and identifying where those repeated patterns that we can help mitigate. Not everybody knows it's there, and so there is decals on board buses and trains to be able to support customer awareness, but we're going to get some more comms out about that, including through AT Mobile, so more people know about that, so we get more data, we can be more data-led, which helps that resourcing aspect. In terms of that, obviously working really closely with community policing, and you know, other parties to sort of help us. One thing that I'm sort of keen to explore, and I would like the support of councils, particular in certain areas, to do, is to try a more of a community-led approach, particularly during school holidays, and activate the actual transport stations themselves, so they become more places to be, more location-based and more activity-based, but also engaging. And that will help mitigate that sort of social aspect that we're seeing, where you see clusters of youth and you know, antisocial behaviour. So it's about creating more lively places. Have enlisted some more conversations with youth workers to better understand the issue from the youth level and what we can do to try and support that. From a workers' perspective, obviously what we've seen in recent weeks too is another big increase in bus driver violence and violence against drivers. So we're obviously very motivated to do what we can to try and accelerate in terms of the security safety shields for them to support our bus drivers, because a lot of what we have seen is random attacks of violence, and in terms of that there actually has been no engagement prior in conversation, which is quite disturbing to see. And obviously with some of the other instances that we've seen, I don't think we've got all the solutions, and I do want to say that these are really, really complex social issues out there, and we do need more community involvement and approach with community leaders to help us resolve it. Yeah.
Just give a follow-up. So what is your message to Aucklanders who are on public transport that see something that's inappropriate or inappropriate behaviour?
Yeah, so if it is an emergency situation, they should always phone 111 in terms of that. If they're noticing strange or odd behaviour in terms of that, or just, you know, clusters of activity with certain things that may lead to something, to do that too, or advise the public transport workers in that area or the bus driver, because they can immediately phone depot, who have a, you know, fast line into police as well. But also use the Crime Stoppers, use the texting system, because a lot of people will see something and not think much of it and won't report it. And that's the thing, the more information we get, the better we can equip ourselves and be able to proactively deploy and understand the issues and, you know, mitigate them. We do get a good content through there. I mean, some of it's of mixed quality, so we're also going to be looking about what type of interface we can do with AT Mobile, so the fields are, you know, can be placed so we get more of, I guess, consistent sort of approach to what information we're collecting. But it is instantaneous. It's not for emergency situations though. It's more to support that. We've also set up, in terms of with the bus drivers, you know, a system for them to report things to us much easier as well, because they see so much out there, yeah, and so we're trying to make it easier for them. And that may even be that there's, you know, sort of bus stops out there where there's been some congregation of activity, or the lighting's poor, or some of those sort of minor infrastructure issues that make their job harder. So getting on top of that side of it as well. Yeah.
Thank you for what you're doing in that space, because I think it's really important that Aucklanders have confidence that their public transport is safe to use. Thank you.
Member Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the report, and I don't disagree, Dean. The target around the procurement spend with Māori-owned businesses is very cool. And also that the AT MOP, or the Auckland Transport Māori Outcome Plan, will be getting approved by the board in June. Just one thing around reciprocation. We note that you engage with mana whenua on a regular basis on a range of kaupapa. How does AT report back to mana whenua on the progress made, and how are the insights from mana whenua included in AT's work program?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for providing the question in advance. So I've gone back to the team and just to check in, so I can give you a reply of greater substance. Look, can I confirm for both you about the balance of council that we report regularly back to mana whenua by bringing progress updates and outcomes of decisions to those forum, and that's a really useful way of us being able to engage in both directions. And look, if time to time topics require further input or discussion, then we do that through workshops. The insights and the contributions are also fed back into those same forum, and if we require executive or subject matter expertise, then that attends as required, just to ensure that we've got common understanding. Look, the only other thing that I wanted to add was that we've also reflected on the Regional Transport Committee and the opportunity to lift that as more of a chief-to-chief engagement with mana whenua. And so there's an approach that we've adopted there, led by our chair, Richard Leggett, where we will meet at that senior level with mana whenua around 6 monthly, just to make sure that we're across the strategic issues as transport outcomes affect Māori across Tamaki Makaurau.
Ka pai, Dean. I think it's very good to have these given to you so that you can prepare and reply in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Okay, just 3 more questions, and we can then go into any debate if there's anything. Hills, Dalton and Ferry to finish it off.
Thanks, Chair. I just have a quick comment and then 3 questions. The first comment is just congratulations, Stacey and the team, for the media didn't really cover your great release, but June 4, significant uptick back to peak sailings on Bayswater, Birkenhead, Te Aniwa, Northcote and Devonport. It is big news, and I think that's really a testament to you guys and all the training and the crews, so that's great. I have a question on that. Could you just explain what having 2 boats doing those routes will do to the issues we've been having this week about delays? And the other 2 questions are, Kiwi Rail again, this morning was a disaster. I don't know if you've seen that. Signal failures and the whole network again fell apart. So what are we doing there? And the other question is, when do we expect, it's been great seeing those HOP readers being switched out so we can do the pay wave. When do you think the go live for the pay wave is? So those are my 3 questions. Thank you.
Stacey, you can do the first 2. I'll just briefly comment on contactless payments. Our target is to have contactless payments or open loop in by the end of the year. There has been some delays in equipment, but we're very committed to making that change occur. So there's a lot of focus. Stacey.
Thank you. So with the reinstatement of a 20-minute timetable for Devonport, that means that you have another boat and another crew on the route during peak. What we see with reliability with one boat, obviously it has a severe knock-on effect, and when you've got a quick turnaround time, that quickly dissipates and you end up having to either cancel or you have things running late consistently. So obviously that'll take what I'd call is that pinch out of the network in terms of that to make it both more punctual but also reliable. Yeah, and I know it was disappointing that we had cancellations yesterday morning, literally right after we had the good news about the release the day before. So we're all looking forward to June the 4th and obviously really grateful that the anticipation of bringing it forward a number of months has been well received. The second issue, in terms of the Britomart points, yes, I understand it's rather frustrating for Auckland. In terms of that, I do know that they've identified a fix, and that will be happening tonight. So there has been agreement on that, and as far as I can see from the latest update, that Kiwi Rail and their operator are working diligently to make sure that that happens tonight.
All right, unfortunately, I have to move an extension of time, so I'll quickly move that. Second to Councillor Simpson. All those in favour? Yeah. So we're nearly at 1 o'clock now. We've got a few councillors. If we could make those questions pretty concise, folks. Thank you, Councillor Dalton.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Congratulations on the report. Well done on that. Stacey, I absolutely agree with the community solution. So if there's any way I can help out my way, just let me know. My question, well, you sort of answered it a bit. The protected guards for the drivers. My question was going to be, first, are we doing that? And the second, would it be expedited if it's the right solution with extra funding? Because I'm in the pay more, do more camp for Auckland Transport, and could we ring fence in there to help that?
Thank you. Good question. I guess the short answer is yes, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, the buses aren't our assets. Yeah? So in terms of that, they are the operator's assets. So we're sort of working out how to best manage the program and the rollout of them. As a policy position, our board agreed last year that any new bus procured after that time frame would have a factory fitted shield. So, they will start entering in the market, albeit some of the recent arrivals don't have them because they were, initially purchased before that date. So that's a good thing. So eventually we will get there, but obviously taking a risk-based approach in terms of prioritisation of the retrofit program, and also obviously where it makes sense. So if a bus doesn't have, many years and a usable life left, then obviously that will be a lower priority. So yes, in terms of funding support needed to amplify that and get that, going a lot faster is definitely needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Ferry.
Thanks. My question actually follows on really well from Councillor Dalton. So are we, obviously last year we were coming out of a bus driver crisis. Are we feeling good about where we're sitting in terms of bus driver numbers now? Obviously we're at arm's length from that because they're employed by the companies. But safety is increasingly a concern for them. And I wanted to, I guess, throw out there the idea, we've just seen the Mayor broker a pretty big breakthrough on the port with the union involved in that conversation. Are you working with the bus driver unions in particular around those safety issues in a really proactive way so we can keep that workforce either in the jobs but also encouraging new people to join that workforce as we expand?
In terms of the bus driver shortage, we're actually looking pretty good, but it changes on the daily.
Yeah.
And so the feedback from the operators is it is changing, and if we do have more instances in terms of violence against bus driver, of course that impacts their desire to, for the job and for the continuation of it. So it's constantly a watch area. Obviously, we've got better reporting now that helps us understand if there is a trend happening. I was out visiting an operator on Tuesday, and actually they said they were pretty healthy in terms of their workforce numbers, and which was good.
Great.
But it is a constant watch area.
Oh.
In terms of union involvement, look, we did involve the unions extensively last year during the trial. Hands up, I do think that has fallen a little bit to the wayside in terms of their involvement. So the team are re-engaging them on that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Another issue just in the safety space, picking up on some of the points that have been made, what do you think of the idea of potentially bringing that as an issue to some of the advisory panels? Because they cover a really wide range of lived experience of Auckland. Obviously, we have a disability panel, we have ethnic communities, rainbow community, so seniors. That could be a good topic to bring to them for some insight that you might otherwise not get at the table. What do you think of that?
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I mean, the more sort of, I guess, user groups and viewpoints we get, the better.
Yeah.
As I said with the youth, that's why we're engaging, youth workers to understand them on their level. The last thing we want to do is make Auckland youth feel like, they're not welcome or that they're isolated, because that's not going to fix the situation or amplify it. So we want to do the right thing and understand it fully.
Oh, happy to follow that up as the sort of overlord, I think.
Councillor Foley?
Kia ora, thank you, Chair, and thank you, team. I want to start off by commending you for the report. It is a good report. Well done on those 19 objectives. It looks really good when stacked up against those objectives, so well done. My question is around the safety issues. When I saw what was happening on the news, I immediately thought of a community-led response. But this isn't new either. We've had safety issues in the past, and I think I've asked a similar question in the past around what are you doing to engage with our local boards who do have those local connections? Because in every local board I know there are Māori wardens, there are community patrols, there are, like in my ward, we have Pacific wardens and Indian wardens who can help as well. There's also a safety network meeting. So there'll be these very community-specific groups out there. So what have you done anything in that space to reach out to our local boards and to those community groups, the business associations, for example, to see what can be done in that community space for safety? Kia ora.
Thank you. Yes, well, look, we've had really good examples of working with the community to resolve issues, and that's the only thing that fundamentally works over time, is when you engage more broadly. So what we're doing is actually working up a broader program that's more enduring. So it's not what I would call, overcoming an issue. It's going to be more enduring in how we sort of work and partner for the longer term. With obviously community groups, community leaders, and as well as local policing. I think representation has been, sporadic at some of that, and so it's really about cementing it and making it more fulsome. Thank you.
Can I, sorry, Chair, can I just add to that? Sorry, Stacey. The conversation that Stacey and I and others have been having is that what we see on the public transport system is a reflection of what's happening in society. And as public transport providers, and I dare say some of the death and serious injuries on our roads are also an expression of frustration or tension, is something that we can go so far in. But the call I would like to make to you as council is, how can you help us reach back into your own communities? Because as a transport provider, we can do so much. And we want to make the bus, the ferry, the train safe. We want to make those hubs safe. We want people to walk and drive safely as well. But actually, we can only go so far. I mean, this starts in homes, it starts in schools and churches on Marae. It's youth workers, it's the Māori wardens, it's all of those things. And so my appeal to you as council is, how can you, in your leadership role as civic leaders, actually assist Auckland to be the safe and great place to live? We want to do our part, but actually, unfortunately, what we see happening in the public transport system is a reflection of things that we're not really empowered to change, but we want to influence. We need your help. So my call is back to you to think about how you help us, and we definitely want to step up and do our part.
Kia ora, I appreciate, because you're holding up a mirror to us as well as civic leaders, and like Councillor Dalton, I'm happy to help where I can. Kia ora.
Councillor Williamson?
Yeah, look, very quickly, Dean, on the 4th of April when you were here, I expressed serious concern about a rotary walkway having been designated for cycles when I don't think it's fit for it with hairpins. And I don't want to upset your chairman, but we've got quite a few mammals who think that speed tracks can be round around there, and there's been a lot of people quite seriously injured. So on behalf of constituents, I raised it with you and I said, all I want to know is who's the person that did it. Who's the person? Because when I've talked to the local board, they say, no, it's AT. When I talk to council, they say it's the local board. When I've asked AT, they said it's not us. And you said you would find out for me. You said you would. And I followed you out to the foyer and I said, all I want is, who is it that decided to make it a joint pathway? That's all. And then I asked again at the political working group on the 26th of April. I still don't have it. Mark Lambert said, I'll make sure you get that. And we're now over a month away, and I still haven't had a reply on it.
For Christmas.
And I get bagged at the on the walkway. They get bagged by constituents who just say, I thought you were going to get an answer for us.
Thank you, councillor. I will undertake to come back to you as soon as I can.
You did that last time.
Yep.
Christmas.
And I don't have the answer. And to be fair, I don't have the answer, but I will come back.
Okay, so,
I'm not going to promise a time frame, but
well,
it'll be as soon as possible.
yeah, let's make it as soon as possible. Councillor Bartley?
Oh, thank you, Chair. You're getting bagged by constituents. Welcome to being a councillor. Councillor Williamson? Yep, you get it all the time, no matter what you're doing. I just wanted to take up your offer. Was it an offer or a plea, Dean? And I want to be part of trying to find some solutions. Community-led, absolutely, but in the interim, community-led will take a while, but definitely it's unsafe out there. And we already know that's where a lot of attacks and, brawls and east side versus south side, it's always at the train stations, all these brawls. So yes, community-led, but I'm happy to be a part of that. And I'm also wondering, do you think we need to be at the stage where Australia is with transit cops? Because we can put our wardens on the trains, but at the same time, wardens are usually older. Wouldn't want them to get involved in any fights with the hivers while the other people have got knives. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, currently, obviously, we have a very, very limited pool of transport officers, and they are, intelligence-led. We deploy them based on where we know they're needed the most, because of the limitations. But the evidence says, and our operator did a recent trial, and they've actually got a trial of what they call customer service people on the Southern Line at the moment in terms of that. In the lead up to that, we wanted a good audit in terms of what matters most and when. And so, some of the feedback is that people actually feel pretty safe on public transport, which is great. That we want people to feel safe. It is at night at stations that's the problem, and so we need to think about how we deal with that. So some of the youth stuff we see is particular times of the day, and it's predictable, right? So we can overcome that in certain pockets. The broader issue does seem to be at night and people's level of safety. And so, as Councillor Dalton and others have talked about today, particularly from a woman's perspective, you get a real big difference in terms of how people feel, safe at night at public transport stations. And so, like, if I look at MTM in Melbourne, they have transit police on every platform after 6 p.m. They have nothing throughout the day. 6 p.m. they have because of that issue. So we do have limited resourcing. So again, we're taking a look at it to see what matters the most when. It may not be that having people on board trains all the time and in multiple numbers is the best approach in order to be able to overcome what we're seeing. But people need to have mana within the communities, because otherwise it's a spray and hope approach does not work. We've seen that time and time again. And actually we're potentially just putting a security guard at risk, because they have no affinity for the community they're in or understand the social dynamics. It puts them at risk too. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I've seen brawls and the security guards are there, but they are just observing. And really, it has to be cops that stop the brawls. No matter what I can try and do, it has to be cops. My other question was around, I think I'll leave it there. It was socialisation of what we're trying to achieve. We want to put in some bus lanes, dynamic lanes, whatever, but you'll get community pushback because people are just not on board with what we're trying to do. So I think it's the socialisation message again, and I think Dean's going to come back and say it's over to us as councillors to show that leadership and champion things.
Not necessarily. I accept we are reviewing, and Dan Lambert's leading this, fundamentally how we better engage in the way that we approach change. And that change could be in relation to car parks, or it might be in relation to a clearway or bus priority. So I think I've acknowledged in several of these council meetings, committees, that the way that we engage and understand and then what we consult on hasn't quite been balanced properly. So we are reviewing how we do that and how we do that better, both before a solution is arrived at, when we consult on preferred options, and then how we communicate on the way through. So that is a deep piece of work that's going on. But yes, you are also part of the solution. So and we both need and respect that political leadership and ear cover.
All right, we have to get Medicine Sun Frontier to start dropping in some supplies soon. I'll be looking to adjourn the meeting if we keep going, because we've just been going too long. So let's try and finish off these councillor questions in this item and give people a bit of a break, because we have staff here that's been sitting here for about 5 hours. Sayers, Councillor Lee and Councillor Walker.
Mr. Chairman, I don't wish to ask a question. I just want to make a brief comment before you.
Okay, Councillor Lee, we can do that at the end. Councillor Sayers?
Yes, thank you, John. My question's a very broad one, trying to cover at a governance level, understanding criteria that Auckland Transport uses in its decision making about the balance between public transport and road maintenance. So Dean and Stacey, what I'm trying to understand is, obviously public transport has to run on roads, and therefore keeping the roads up to standard through our maintenance budgets is important. So how is that decision made? What criteria do you use, and what factors? I imagine there's things such as the your own criteria, NZTA criteria and weightings about what they subsidise, the GPS statement, which is likely to change things, and I guess political direction from Auckland Council itself. So how do you balance the spend of the limited budget that you have in terms of providing OPEX for public transport services versus renewals and maintenance budgets for roads, and I guess a subsection of that might be if you wanted to comment about how the government positioning statement might alter that, and how we might see a change in landscape there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Look, I'll go through this very, very quickly. But first of all, what we do is we have a strategic asset management plan that defines the remaining life and performance of our assets, and we use that to inform how much we need to invest to ensure that it continue to perform. And that could be a road pavement, it could be a footpath, it could be a bus, it could be a ferry wharf. It doesn't matter, any structure, bridge, pavement, etc., etc. So that informs what we need to invest in to maintain the performance of those assets over their life cycle. So that's a bottom-up approach. And then we reconcile that with the amount of funding that's available through the government policy statement for land transport and what Auckland Council chooses to invest through the long-term plan. Those two numbers for a long time have not matched. The need to maintain our assets has always been greater than the funding available. I'm pleased to say that that number is coming closer together. And it's separate to then how we consider provision of services across the top of those assets.
Councillor Walker?
Just a very quick question. I have asked before about some more detailed information about the status of the electrification of ferries, the new build, the hybrids and the like. The reason for that is because I understand there are possibly substantial cost overruns. I think this is the 5th occasion I've asked for that in these meetings. Thank you.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, there's a little bit of urgency now because I don't doubt that the government takes an interest in this, because it was also partly a shovel-ready project. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've responded to this a few times as well. And I did most recently at one of your RLTP workshops, and that is that an update on the ferry or the low carbon emission ferry program and replacement of the fleet is coming back to our board in the next month. And once we've resolved how we want to manage that in light of cost and delivery risk and the balance of the fleet, then I'll be able to bring that to this Transport Infrastructure Committee. That's likely to be June or July.
Right, thanks for that. Councillor Baker, you want to move this?
Yep, I'll move it.
Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Simpson. There was a couple of people who wanted to speak briefly to this. Yes, Councillor Darby and Councillor Lee. And sorry, Councillor Filipaina, sorry.
Briefly, thanks Dean, Stacey and the AT team. Look, I'm getting pinged pretty regularly like Councillor Hills on the ferry front. And I know Stacey and the team are doing enormous work there, but we do have a long way to go. PT punctuality has not been great. I noticed it's actually not mentioned in the report, as is bus and rail. And I know we've increased the measure there to up to 87%, so we've made the target harder. And while it's not being met in this report, it's very close. But I have to reiterate that on the ferry front, and I've always been an advocate for making sure that ferries are and don't remain the poor cousin mode, some 68% of the 180 cancellations of ferries in December through to March, 180 cancellations, 68% of them are attributed to the impact of crews coming into the downtown ferry basin. In addition to those cancellations, there are 63 delays attributed to crews. Now, we don't just consider, it is a premium fare mode. So people travelling by ferries per kilometre pay a premium to anybody travelling by bus or rail. It is a premium mode and it's not showing up as a premium service by any means. The Central Wharves handover, which we've discussed, if that was to proceed, it would only alleviate 50% of the congestion in the downtown ferry basin, only 50%. Long term, if a Bledisloe was built, plus additional berthage to cruise on in the Central Wharves area, it would go to 100%, but that is only long term. So there's no silver bullet in that. I know Stacey and the team are doing a lot of work, which I've been involved with, on extending the cruise blackout. The cruise blackout, which does in the AM and the PM, is being extended in the PM by 1 hour for the next cruise season. And Roger Gray at the Ports of Auckland is working with the cruise industry in a discussion coming up very soon on their willingness to extend the AM blackout by probably another 35 minutes, bringing it forward to 6 a.m., about 5:45 a.m. or 5:55 a.m. They are critical to making that number of cancellations disappear. There are thousands, tens of thousands of people that are being impacted by cruise cancellations and delay. And I plea for AT's continuing blowtorch attention to that. And I know it's happening, it's hard, but we need to work with our partners to address that. I have one last point, and it's to Dean and to Richard Leggett. Dean, you were asked to provide the name of a person that is responsible for a project that one of my colleagues, Councillor Williamson, is criticised. I plea for you not to release any name of any individual for an elected member to berate. It is not appropriate at all. And I plead to the chair who's with us here today to make sure that an individual's name at Auckland Transport is not released when there is obviously a deluge of criticism coming upon that individual. That is not okay.
Okay, I don't think we can say the intention was to berate. I didn't hear any.
There was no
reference
intention
to
to berate
duration,
whatsoever.
so-
I wanted to find out what had happened.
Well, okay. Well, I think we'll take that as inappropriate, and the very fact you made, Councillor Williamson, is that you want to speak to someone. I think that's how I took it. Councillor Baker, then Councillor Philippina, then Councillor Lee.
Yeah, look, and so I don't think you can blame me for being over time. But I just want to acknowledge the team at Auckland Transport, and I guess I'm privileged in that I sit on the board, and so I get a closer look at the stuff that goes on. And I think about when we first came into this room after the election in 2022 and what had been demanded. Change was demanded. We needed change. We needed change. We've got a new board. Think about the change that has occurred at Auckland Transport. We have a completely new board other than one board member who was there prior to the 2022 election. A whole new board. We've got a new board chair. We've got a new CEO. He's put in place a new structure. There's a new way of working. Every time they come here, they report on the changes that are being made at Auckland Transport at the behest of this room. Yes, they're not perfect. Yes, but neither is this council. And so other than you, Morris, and your time as minister. But just think about that. And that report today is something that we should go, that's actually really good. I'm also probably in the small group of people here who every day uses public transport to get into town. My 3-hour daily commute, most of that time is spent on a train. And I actually enjoy that. And I see the work the staff do on those trains, dealing with safety issues. We will never fix the safety issues that exist in our society. And that comes from, me and my old policeman mate here were just talking about that. We will never fix that. We will never be everywhere all of the time in a place to stop bad stuff happening. And so I've watched the staff on the trains actually do some amazing work. So, I commend the team at Auckland Transport today. It's really easy for us to take a fly and take a kick because we feel good. But at the end of the day, I see up close in a couple of ways just how much change there has been and how much good work is happening. So thank you, and it's it's nice to be able to move this because it is such a damn good report.
Councillor Philippina.
Tēnā koe, Chair. Auckland Transport, ngā mihi kia koutou katoa. Thank you so much. I looked at number 19 of the report, under number 19, which is performance measures. I tried to put something what I'm going to say now into any of them, but there's nothing there in regards to the work that Auckland Transport does. And in particular, I looked at number 4, which is the collaboration and improving relationships. I know the SOI measure is local boards. I also looked at number 5, supporting Māori wellbeing outcomes and expectations. And the SOI for that is percentage of procurement spend with Māori-owned businesses. To you, Dean, and to you, Richard, Andrew Allen, thank you for giving me that name. He has helped me so much in regards to a lot of issues that have been within the Manukau ward, but also in the Manurewa Papakura. I can tell you that, that's because I'm not going to berate him. So I don't know why you're talking, Councillor Morrison, because I'm trying to acknowledge the staff here. So Chair, thank you.
Councillor Philippina finish his speech, please.
So the name you gave to me to help me with the issues that I had is somebody now that has cleared issues around Te Puia Marae. So thank you for that. He's also helped with the temple at Redoubt Road. That is the name you just gave me and said, look, this person will help. So thank you to that. So I've put them into the number 4 and number 5 measures. So again, please pass that on, Richard, to you, and Dean, please pass that on, because he's helped me with issues around Otahuhu as well. So it has been, I just want to acknowledge Andrew, but also the work that you do. Kia ora, Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Philippina. Councillor Lee.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I note that Mr. Kimpton, in his presentation, did point out that we, the governing body, are part of the, or should be part of the solution, and I think that's a very fair point. In terms of the success or otherwise of AT, I think that in terms of our role, we have to be absolutely objective and to be to seek rigour in the reporting we get from a subsidiary like AT. In terms of success, which AT is claiming, when you look at public transport pre-pandemic and today, we still haven't made up the leeway to reach where we were before the pandemic, which leads us to another comparison, and that is how are other cities doing? And there are a group of comparator cities. Wellington is one, I think Christchurch, but certainly Melbourne, Sydney, Perth and Brisbane, and a couple in North America have been used, that we should be getting benchmarking from rather than just relying on how great AT is claiming it's doing. You can expect them to talk a big game, but our role as being part of the solution is to assess that objectively. And in terms also, as a benchmark, the value we're getting for the money, ratepayers' money, taxpayers' money that is going into AT, and it goes up all the time. So it's okay. We hear from AT that they're doing well, that they're succeeding, but again, as elected members, part of the solution, we should bear in mind, because we have to face those people next year, what the people of Auckland think about AT and how successful AT is. And that is somewhat different to what AT is saying about itself. Now, that's to be expected. However, we have to be careful that we don't start creating parallel realities. Inside this chamber, everything is so good that we are clapping, but outside, not so good. And I think we need to bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Sayers, final speaker. I hope we haven't kept you from your lunch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to make a comment around a comment that was made during the comments, and I think it's vital that governors of a city retain the opportunity and the right to be able to access personnel in any CCO or Auckland Council directly. Specifically, you know, if you want to ask a question about a policy, it's probably important to understand if that's been made by a new graduate, by a seasoned professional, or to question the details of how a decision was made or a policy has come into practice, and how old that policy is, and if it should be renewed. And if we can't target the individual, it's bureaucracy let loose and uncontrolled. So it's vital, from my point of view, it's vital that any governor can pinpoint an individual responsible for a decision. They should, by courtesy, involve the Chief Executive Officer and other senior management, but they should be able to access the engineer or the policy decision maker within the Auckland Transport, in this case, through this meeting, directly, and be able to grill, question, and debate with that person directly. So, in the interests of democracy, I felt that I need to make that comment, Mr. Chair. So thank you for the opportunity.
Right, it's been moved by Councillor Baker, seconded by Mayor Simpson. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We'll break for lunch now and resume at, what's that? That'll be 2:10. Enjoy your lunchtime, everyone. Sorry, staff, for that big delay. It'll be a bit of